Hello and welcome to another PA Matches cast. Got a unique one for you. I'm going to show you what it's like to play without strategic icons. It is a blast. Not really. I had to restart several times in order to get strategic icons to appear. Finally they did. Turns out ants and levelers weren't showing up with strategic icons, but it was already too late in the game with too much action going on for me to restart by the time I realized this. So we've got a three-way free-for-all. Me versus PCJews and Nuke332_Ikun. I get sandwiched in between both of them, and I would have been royally screwed if Nuke doesn't have crashes and disconnects and ultimately doesn't return, which really saves my ass. It also kind of goes to show in here how little I've been playing lately. My macro and expansion was hurting, and I nearly lost because I didn't have enough build power early on. I was investing too much in economy and not enough in offensive units. So action's a little underway. I have a little small skirmish going on here, and I managed to put up this missile defense tower, pull back my bot so the missile defense tower can take care of them. It then becomes the center of a decent amount of action because it's a decent metal clump. My opponent is pushing much harder for production than I am, and he ends up with a lot more units than I do. I haven't scouted at this point. Like I said, it's been a while since I've really played, so it shows. I've got some idle scouts, and these factories are intentionally idle because I'm still struggling to retain positive metal. So got a little bit of a push going forward over here, where I take out some opposing metal extractors. Unfortunately, they then sit idle before I push forward. I also don't really know where my opponent is or how he's doing because I haven't scouted yet. I've also got a decent amount of idle fabricators, which I need to be sending this way to claim metal, which there off they go. And then in a little bit, my scouts are going to go out and realize that I am sandwiched. My Nuke, he goes for an early advanced, very early advanced, and PCJews is still going much harder with units than I am. I managed to hold him off thanks to defensive towers, thankfully. So as you can see, no strategic icons for these ants, nor levelers later on, which, like I said, makes for some really challenging gameplay. So here we go, I got a positive economy. This is where I need to start using it. Unfortunately, it takes me a little bit to realize I've got a positive economy, but soon we'll see these idle fabricators and idle factories start up, as well as these fabricators. Really struggle here with trying to do a bunch of things at once. In a moment, I notice that I've run into my opponent over Nuke over here on this side, and I start putting up a defensive line because I'm already engaged in offensive pushes. There go my scouts against PCJews, so I don't want to pick too many fights at once, and I'm hoping that just a defensive line will keep Nuke here from pushing up against me. But thankfully that ultimately never ends up being a factor because of he crashes or disconnects. So he PCJews pushes in with some ants, causes some problems for me, takes out my fabricators and a handful of metal spots. thankfully my missile defense towers are enough to ward off his attacks. So I have scouted Nuke and realize he's going for advanced, and I realize I really need to push for advanced because I'm sandwiched. I need to have a strong economy since I can't expand as much. So things are slowing down a little bit, so let's speed up the replay a little bit. Here we go. Here comes a big push, which turns into a little bit of a problem for me. And idle fabricators really need to be expanding hard this way, which I end up doing, and ultimately this expansion is probably what saves me. So I've got radar coverage right here, so I start to see that this attack is incoming, so I work on defensive structures and getting units over here. And try and micro my bots, but ultimately wasn't enough. Managed to get up a missile defense tower, and then I work on more. And then see that this is where PCJews should have been attacking me from different sides instead of just attacking my defensive structures over and over again, which he does do that there in a little bit. Okay, we missed this a little bit, but as soon as I finished my advanced bot factory, I had a bunch of fabricators assist the bot factory to pump out a bunch of advanced advanced fabricators, so I can work on an advanced economy, because I'm hurting for metal, and I don't want to expand too much for fear of getting attacked by both of my opponents. So I really want to get some advanced metal extractors and advanced energy plants going so I can have a stronger economy without being as spread out and vulnerable. Working on getting up defensive structures since he's pumping out a lot more units than I am, and I don't have the economy to support my factories at this point. So I switch to advanced bots since I don't want to have too many fabricators more than I can support. Got an idle commander here for a little bit. That's never good. You always want to keep your commander building. Let's slow things down a little bit. So then I eventually get my commander assisting that advanced bot factory. And this is also where radar coverage really saves me several times, because I see this group forming, so I'm able to spam out defensive structures to counter these incoming attacks. And continuing to expand this way and building this proxy base, and this proxy base is actually what wins the game for me later on, as you'll see. I'm a huge fan of proxy bases. They are just fantastic. So PCJews is pushing, but he's coming up against my defensive structures and losing more than he is destroying. He also isn't expanding as much as he should. There's a decent amount of metal out to his backside and to his north, although he doesn't know that I'm over here. I'm pretty sure he doesn't. So there's really a lot more metal, and if he had expanded more, he would have won the match, because he really outproduced me there for some time. So he's now working on levelers, and really those levelers cause lots of problems for me, because I can't tell when he's coming at me. I don't have strategic icons for ants and levelers. Really created quite the challenge. So here in a little bit, I'm finally going to start to get my economy on track. So then I ramp up my production power just in time. And here we go, I got a radar going up. This radar coverage was really a huge help for me. It allowed me to see where his attacks were coming from and about how big they were, so I was able to I was able to counter with much greater effectiveness than if all of a sudden I had a whole bunch of units. So I'm working on slammers. I really like slammers. They are fantastic for raiding. I believe that they are an underrated unit, and I'll show you some of their effectiveness here in a little bit. So continuing with this proxy base, these factories are going to start going up, start producing here in a little bit because I got a positive economy going. And then I've got fabricators continuing to expand, and they're going to be putting up some advanced bot factories later, which if the match had continued on longer, they would have been a big help, because I nearly got overrun several times. And here we go. See, I don't know how many units I have because I do not have strategic icons. These laser defense towers and walls really are a big help. And here in the moment, these units are going to come into this radar coverage. So I'll be able to scramble and defend accordingly. Got my defensive line over here, which ultimately isn't needed. And sheesh, got just a long build queue pushed up, which is why I never pushed over to take over Nuke's structure, because I didn't have enough units to be able to fight both sides at once. And then the amount of micro in order to destroy the metal extractors, destroy the wreckage, and then rebuild, it just wasn't something that I could handle. So here we go. I'm spamming up a bunch of defensive structures because I saw this attack coming in, and I've got my ants blobbing up. So I then push in, and oh wow, he had shellers in the mix. That really, wow, that was good. That's what took out those defensive structures. So ultimately he gets the upper hand in that engagement, although I think I did destroy more than I lost, at first at least. Ooh, that sucks. 2 levelers stuck on that crater. That happens several times. Nice move to build that pelter, although it might not quite be in range of that. This lobber causes problems for me. And this was a very good move on his part. He pushes over here and destroys a bunch of metal extractors, which ultimately I don't really end up rebuilding because I have to reclaim the wreckage before I can rebuild it. So I've got a raid circling around with slammers, the advanced bots, while at the same time I am trying to defend against this attack over here with these incoming levelers and ants. Thankfully they go idle for a little bit, and since these ants are not going to be able to catch up to those levelers and ants, I just push in with them and cause a decent amount of damage. And then continuing over here on the backside, I'm able to destroy a bunch of metal extractors with this group of slammers. So they're still causing lots of damage, and here I'm scrambling to try and defend, get up some laser defense towers. Can't remember how I ultimately destroyed this attack. Looks like it was that laser defense tower that did most of it. Because those levelers are shooting at my metal extractor. This is some poor micro on his part. He should have clumped up and focused on this laser defense tower, because that laser defense tower ultimately took out most of those units, which they then go idle here in a little bit, and I destroy with these bots. So I'm getting some decent blobs of units clumped up, and here I am pushing in with a counter, and I see that I'm getting hit by the pelter, so I'm just trying to push forward with all I got. Ants get stuck on wreckage. I really dislike that bug. you can have a very powerful attack and it can just get completely annihilated because your attackers will get caught. So here I see this leveler, or this Hulkins, this lobber, and I know that I am screwed if I ignore this. So I can focus fire on that leveler, or not leveler, Hulkins, that lobber, and take it out. Wow, he's got a decent number of levelers and ants clumping up, and boom, I guess he had been idle for so long that all of his, that he just automatically self-destructed. So, I know that he's got a decent amount of forces. He's already overwhelmed me almost a few times, and I know he's going to have a big push coming up, so I start working on fallback factories for when he causes a bunch of damage to my base. And here we go, we see my raid with these advanced bots. They destroyed a decent amount of metal extractors, and here we run into a very annoying bug where units don't always shoot at factories. See, they're not shooting, and they're not shooting. And I forgot about these, so they sit idle, and they could have caused a lot more damage if they had been shooting like they were supposed to, and if I had been controlling them like I should have. Unfortunately, I should have sent them this way to destroy this stuff over here, but I ran them straight into the attacking, or the defenders. So here we go, I've got a decent amount of bots sitting idle and some advanced bots and these over here, so in a little bit I'm going to clump up all of my bots over here and go in for a big flanking push, because I don't know, he either doesn't know these factories are here, or he's forgotten about them, or he doesn't realize they're a threat, or I don't know. And I've also got these advanced bot factories that I end up not using, which I should have, but if they would have been a big time excellent fallback for me. So I'm trying to spam out factories, and he's got a bunch of fighters just hovering over my base, which I deal with here in a moment. I've got my nuclear missile defense because I really don't want to get nuked. Thankfully though, my opponent never went for nukes, and I know these attacking units are coming on radar here in a little bit, and I then try and clump up and blob up in order to defend them. So I know I'm about to lose a large portion of my base, so in a little bit I'm going to have my commander retreat, and I'm going to clump up all of my bots over here, and I send in this raid of bots, and here I am doing everything I can to try and defend against this attack force, because these levelers, it's just ridiculous. I made a huge mistake and I didn't go for more advanced like I should have. Here we go, my bots are relocating for a raid. So I've got advanced factories, and I notice I got a positive economy, so I just everything build. So I get levelers pumping out, and then I get these bot fabricators to assist the factories to try and get out as many levelers as I can to counter these attacking forces. Maybe I should have sent these bots in to defend, but I've got them clumping up for this push over here, and this group of attacking bots is pushing in as well. I don't have very many defenses left. Thankfully, I've got a decent amount of laser defense towers, which cause a lot of damage to my attackers, and here we go. My commander is falling back to try and survive. I've got my advanced bots pushing in to cause as much damage, and here I realize that this attack finds the commander, so I completely ignore what's going on over here and just focus on attacking this commander. And he neglected his commander. He didn't pay attention to the beep beep. He should have pulled his commander back and gotten all these fabricators to repair the commander. He could have survived that attack which, let's back up a little bit and see how I was doing over here. He still had 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. He still had a bunch of levelers which were going to just chew through this economy, take out most of my energy, and it was just going to be a big loss. Ultimately, I believe I would have ended up destroying these attacking forces, because I got these levelers churning out that were going to come in, and I still have a large stream of ants headed that way. And then I also had this large group of bots forming up that was going to be a follow-up attack if these guys hadn't have destroyed the commander. Which ultimately, my original plan was to clump up all of these bots and push in, because there's just not much that can defend against that many bots if you're not prepared for it. But when this big attack was just steamrolling through my base, I knew I needed to cause as much damage as possible, as quickly as possible, which is why I was going for the twofold attack. These units were heading this way, which was a good move. It was going to destroy practically all of my energy, making it incredibly difficult for me to recover. My commander was heading in the opposite direction to hide behind the advanced vehicle factories, and I still had plenty of room to expand out this way, and I had these advanced bot factories going up, so I had a good shot at recovering from this attack if I hadn't destroyed the commander. All around, it was a very good match. I really struggled to keep afloat, and honestly, if my opponent, if he did have these fabricators out here in the back just sitting around. If he had claimed all of this metal back here, which I wasn't here for a long time, so if he had just expanded more and claimed a lot more metal, then he would have been able to have much greater production power, and he would have beaten me. I also should have raided more. I had a decent number of bots just sitting around. I should have built more bot factories and used the bots that I had sitting around, as well as the aircraft I had sitting around, to scout the backside of the base to find unguarded metal extractors. Oh wow. Oh no, never mind. I thought that was an energy plant. Because I could have caused a lot more damage and made things a lot harder for my opponent if I had just raided more and destroyed his metal extractors. Whew! So, all around, good match. Even though it was a 3-way that turned into a 1v1, it was a good match. Honestly, I'm glad Nuke had timed out or crashed, because there's just no way I wouldn't have been able to fight off both of them at the same time. Good match. Hope you all enjoyed it.